Money was always the problem within our family. You might not know how to speak English properly. Your grammar might be bad. Your spellings are not even perfect. You might be dyslexic. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Keep believing in yourself. There's always different ways in this world to learn. I would think of different ways I can do this rather than doing the same way as what everyone's doing. That's the power of dyslexia. I just picked up the camera, started making videos, and then 1 month I went from 60 to like 1 million. Time for me to not give a damn about anyone as well. So this has just been a life-changing moment for me.
Welcome to the Bay HQ, where we inspire, connect and guide the next generation of British Asian entrepreneurs. Today we have with us Jatz Naran, who at 23 has over 1 million TikTok followers and is an Amazon FBA expert. How are you doing today, Jatz?
I'm doing really, really well, and thank you for having me on this podcast.
You're so young, yet you've obviously taken a different path to what so many other people do. Did you always think you were going to do that when you were growing up?
Absolutely not. When growing up, I was never an entrepreneur. I was never one of those guys who will sell sweets in a school. I did have this thing about making money. I wanted to make money. Don't know how, but I just wanted to make money. So when growing up, my parents were not that rich. We came from middle class. I come from middle class family. And so money was always the problem within our family. So that was one inspiration of also why I want to make a lot of money when I grow up. And when I went to uni, I just felt like this is not the way I want to live my life. I don't want to spend the next 40 years working as well after uni and this and that. And while I was at uni, I also got a 9-to-5 job. So while I was at that job, I enjoyed the job for that moment. But when I was thinking of 40 years from now, it just didn't feel like I wanted to keep working. So slowly, when I picked up a book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, The Secrets of the Millionaire's Mind, that kind of gave me the inspiration to become who I want to become today. And then in 2020, I picked up the camera, started making videos on TikTok. And the journey was insane because in the first 10 months, I had 60,000 followers only. And then 1 month, I went from 60 to like 1 million, which again, is like something I never thought of. Never in my life I thought I will be in this position where I'm making money more than I could ever imagine. And this has just been a life-changing moment for me.
To go on TikTok and make those videos, I imagine even with me making videos, right? When I was a kid, I never thought I'd be the guy in front of the camera who'd have the guts to do that. Did you have that confidence when you were younger as well? Or was it quite a struggle at the beginning to put yourself out there?
So when I was young, I first started making YouTube videos as... It was faceless YouTube videos. It was just like you go on Notepad and you write the tutorials like, hey guys, welcome to this. That's what I used to do. And then I tried creating one YouTube video by putting my face in. I used to do some type of like VFX. So I used to go on After Effects and make some VFX. So in 3, 2, 1, I would do that and I would vanish. And one day, that whole video, it was something I'd done it and I never wanted to show my friends. And it was so scary for me because I was just doing it for fun because I wanted to do it. One day, my friend played it in the projector on the board. They played it on the board and the entire class was watching that. And that day, it kind of made me feel more comfortable being in front of the camera and being like, you know what, that's just me. I enjoy doing that. But I still didn't take that as a thing of like, oh, I'm going to just still keep on recording. I stopped doing it after. Maybe because it did get to me, but it still gave me the confidence that now I don't care. And then when I first picked up the camera on TikTok, I think it was something within me. My hunger was so much that I didn't really give a damn about people. And because it was 2020 and it was the start of the lockdown and I was reading so many books, it was like the perfect time for me to not give a damn about anyone as well. So I just picked up the camera, started making videos. I knew there were some people making fun of it, so watching and be like, oh, look at this guy. Oh, he's just suddenly changed and trying to be an motivational speaker / entrepreneur and this and that. But I kept on going because once again, my hunger was there and I just wanted to do something in life.
What were those early videos about, right? Because you always were it was personal finance related, right? But then at that stage, you hadn't actually had a business yet. So you were going through that journey of what was going on, right?
Exactly. So actually my first videos were not even personal finance related. My first ever TikTok was about motivation. It was about a story about Bill Gates, I think, about how he was a college student and then he became successful and he was a dropout and he became successful, this and that. So I always wanted to make motivational videos because I always enjoy / get a kick in myself, get the fulfillment when I motivate others. That's what I wanted to do. And then slowly I started seeing other creators make finance related videos and they were getting a lot of views and likes. That was my biggest mistake. I followed that trend. I went into this personal finance journey. And in a way, it was good because I learned so much, managed to start a business, everything because of that. But in the start, when I was making those personal finance videos, I always had this thought in the back of my head. I'm just 21 years old, don't have a business, don't make a lot of money. How the hell am I making videos about how to make money? So at one point, after gaining 60,000 and then when I hit 1 million, I kind of became very inconsistent with content and I went and built something. So that was Amazon. I started putting a lot of time, a lot of effort into building that. So that way I can say that, look, I built something, so I know what I'm talking about. And now when I make personal finance related videos, I don't have that guilt feeling within me. But in the start, I always had this thing like, I'm talking about it, maybe because I enjoy it, but at the same time, it was always like, should you really be talking about this? But now I'm a lot more confident in that.
It's interesting because I think there's this interplay between, say, imposter syndrome, but actually knowing what you're talking about. And I think sometimes a lot of content online is where it's like, oh, you should just do it, fake it till you make it. But then it's actually, if you don't know what you're talking about and you're giving this advice to people, then, like you said, you should feel guilty, right? Because you're like, I'm actually helping people or not. Because I see all the time, right? I see some of my friends start to create personal finance stuff. I'm like, that doesn't make sense what you've just said, and that's kind of misleading, which can be quite dangerous.
Yep.
So I think it's really good that you actually took the step back and looked to yourself, right? And what are your values, what do you care about, and then go to make that business so you can say, like, yeah, like I do know what I'm talking about. And it's just interesting because a lot of people won't necessarily say that. A lot of people will tell you, oh, just find what the trends are, make the videos on those trends, and then it's about how do you get as much money as you can quickly, rather than are you even giving any value to these people?
Exactly.
So I really like that you did that. And with Amazon FBA, so obviously I know what it is, and lots of people listening might know what it is, but people aren't familiar with it. What actually does Amazon FBA mean? Like, how do you make money through that?
So with Amazon FBA, the way it works is that there are multiple ways you can sell on Amazon, and I didn't know that as well. But the first way is you can go to like shops like Sainsbury's, Tesco's, buy a reduced price, and then resell it at a higher price on Amazon. That's the easiest way to do it. The second way is wholesale Amazon, which is you buy products from wholesalers in bulk or brands directly, and then you sell on Amazon. And the third way is the private label, where you get a product from Alibaba, like China, stick your logo on it, and then create a brand new listing on Amazon, and then start selling on Amazon. But the one I do, or the method I use to sell, is wholesale Amazon, because in that you don't have to create a listing. You can literally buy a product and relist on a listing which is already selling, and it's not that much capital intensive. For example, private label can cost you like £5,000 to £10,000 to get started with. So that's kind of how Amazon works.
And you do a lot of mentoring for people as well, right? So it's a core part of your business at the moment. How did you find that? Because like I said, a lot of people have this idea that coaching is easy. It's an easy way to make money online, and it's not, right? There's so many people out there, and a lot of people, because how do you build the trust, right? That's where I think the content creation side came into play. But how did you go about that, actually building that side and getting that trust with people and delivering? Because I think I've seen your reviews are very high as well, like on Trustpilot. Yeah. So it's always nice to have that like solid grounding in yourself. Where it's like, yeah, I'm really helping people. Yeah. How did you go about that?
So when I first ever thought about selling something, especially like a mentoring an 8-week program, I always had this thing in me like, oh my Lord, I might be known as another guru or something like that. And that was always like a fear in me. So I wanted to make sure if I was to do this, I'm going to do it in the right way. I'm going to make sure every person who joins at least knows the amount they paid, they have got back in value in return. And so that was from day one. Every time someone joined in those 8 weeks, they will go from knowing nothing to knowing everything. Plus they have support of like people who actually do Amazon FBA, plus me in there, and a community. And I feel like with mentoring, it's a lot more different than courses, because on courses, you don't have accountability. You don't have kind of people, you don't have the real person there. And that really affects the kind of value you get. So when I started mentoring, the first few were really hard. In the start, when I done my few sessions, it was really, really difficult, because I have never engaged with a big group of audience, or like a group of audience, even like 20, 30, 40 people in one, like directly on the screen. And I used to have this imposter syndrome / oh, they have paid me, oh my Lord, they might think, oh, this guy is a scammer, this and that. I always had those kind of thoughts. But after the first one, the second one, and third one, I realized, you know what? What I'm doing is providing them so much value, and they love it. And when I scroll in my actual Telegram, people are like, oh my Lord, I just sold this much. Recently there was a screenshot of their Amazon seller account. They had like £25,000 in sales within the first 3 months of starting Amazon. And when I see that, I'm like, damn, I managed to change a person's life like completely. And so those are the type of moments which make me realize, you know what I'm doing is really valuable. And it's not one of those things where it's like, yeah, you get on, I make the money, and then it's over. They get the value, that's why they join. So
it's what I see, because how I made my money online originally was through Medium, right? And there's so many courses about there about how you can make this much per month on Medium. And it's not true. And like, if you listen to this and you're looking about buying a course about Medium, generally, like at the top 0.01% were making what I was making. And by doing one of these courses, like nobody I knew at the top level got there because they did a course. It was all, they had the skill, they had something credibility-wise. And it's really frustrating because I see the courses being sold for like quite a lot of money. It's like those people aren't going to make a return. And when there are these courses out there, and especially with Amazon FBA, the amount you could potentially make is way higher than like someone, even say YouTube or those other platforms.
Yep.
And that's the difference. And you did lots of different things before you did Amazon FBA, right? You tried lots of different businesses. And I remember this, like seeing your content from before. It was part of that was like you experimenting and trying different ideas. What are some of the, I guess, good stories you have from that? Like what's something which really stands out as?
It's been a crazy ride, right? When people call me the Amazon guy, I still don't take that as in, because I still feel like I have tried so much thing that in my head, I'm so many other things. So I started, prior to making content, I first go into property investing. I was 19 years old and I wanted to become a property investor because videos were popping, how to make money in property without no money, this and that. So I started that, spent a lot of money in courses, mentoring, everything, gained so much knowledge, never took any action. And I failed. I call it as a failure because I never took any actions. If you don't take actions, you will always fail. So that's what happened with the property one. Then I slowly was like, you know what, property isn't my thing, let's leave it. Then I tried dropshipping a bit. Dropshipping I tried just for fun, made like few £100 in sales. And then I had the whole idea of fulfilling the order, the customer receiving after 30 days because of AliExpress, this and that. I'm like, I can't deal with that. I can't deal with the customer service part, because that's one thing with dropshipping. You have to make sure the customer service has to be on point, or else they will just ask for refunds and blah, blah, blah. And then comes 2020 when I'm making content and I want to make money because I'm making videos about making money. So I tried few things, but one thing which really popped off was using trading robots. So Forex trading robots. I started Forex trading because I was like, you know what? People make a lot of money. Because in the start, when you're young, it's always about what can make you the most money the quickest. Forex was the one. So I started Forex. I learned Forex. I learned the basics of Forex by using, I think, Baby Bits, or I think something along those lines is the website. Done the whole course. Started trading for 1 month. Was profitable a bit. I mean, profitable in the sense like few 10, 20 pounds profit. That was my profitability. And then I came across a video on YouTube while I was watching a Forex related video saying Forex EA. And I'm like, what is a Forex EA? I clicked on it and it was about Forex Expert Advisors, which is a robot technically. And it trades for you 24/7 based on algorithms which you set on a robot. And being a computer science student, because I was at uni doing computer science, I'm like, I was learning about algorithms and I'm like, algorithms can definitely make sense if they're used correctly. So I'm like, holy crap, I can make money 24/7 without having to actually do something. So I bought a Forex robot, started one on a demo account, which was fake money, started the demo account, and in a week's time, it went from 150 demo money to like around 250. And I'm like, 100 quid in a week. That's insane. Put real money, £150. In 3 or 4 weeks' time, it was £1,000. And I'm like, holy crap. Kept it, let it be there. In another 2-3 weeks, it went to £2,000. I'm like, did I just find a money glitch or something like that? So I'm like, holy crap, I'm going to make videos around this. So I started making videos around that and everything. People started to message me like, yo, bro, I want to do this. So in the start, I would literally write a whole long DM saying, yo, do this, do that. And then I was getting so many messages. I'm like, demand, supply. So I decided to make a little guide on how to set up a robot, how to buy the robot, how to do like a virtual private server, this is that. And I sold it for £49. And that guide made me a lot of money as well. But the reason why eventually I decided that maybe it's not good to continue the guide, because the guide was really on how to set up the robot, but not really explaining the fundamentals of Forex. And it's important to understand the fundamental of Forex if you really want to make money with Forex or even Forex robot, because a few things you want to understand and you will blow your account up. It happened with me in after 3 or 4 months of using Forex robot. I made so much more money than I invested, but I did lose like $1,000, I think around $1,000 or $2,000 as well. And so when people were using it, I still remember the first day, like when people bought it, they're like, holy crap, in 24 hours, I've doubled my money. I was like, that's good. Now take your initial money out and leave the profit to keep playing. That was happening fine. But then some people were so greedy, they would leave everything in there. And then because they didn't know how to, any fundamentals of Forex, they would blow their account up. And so I was like, maybe this is a really big risk for people. So it's best to just pause this or like stop it. So the guide is still there somewhere, but I don't sell it anymore, anything like that. So that was kind of my first big money / side hustle, which really worked out. And then slowly I was like, okay, now what's the way I can keep making consistent income and keep building something? So I was just doing content and documenting my journey of making money online, this and that. And then came Amazon FBA, end of 2020. And
what's really interesting about your journey as well, right, is that a lot of people in our culture, they don't talk about money.
Yeah.
Right? Because even me, for example, I knew on like Medium or on my different things, if I say this is how I made 6 figures on Medium or whatever like that, that's going to blow up. A lot of people are then going to like that. They're going to share it. People are going to add me on LinkedIn. People are going to try and message me. People are going to want to buy my courses. But every time I did it, I got like shouted at by my mum, basically. Like, you shouldn't do that. Like, why are you boasting about it? And it's interesting. I think there is this interplay of where if you don't say the numbers, then you're giving advice and people don't really know what's actually capable from it. And it's like, how do you like do that own battle internally of like, versus like, how are you boasting versus like, it's actually helping? Because if people don't know how much money you're making, then they can't scale it and it doesn't give that context.
Yep.
Did you ever have that struggle at all?
One of the things I always want to do is be as transparent as I can with my audience, which I haven't been able to do in the past, let's say this year, because I've been always like making more content, and I built a team. And in that kind of whole scenario, I couldn't be as transparent. And that's why when it comes to saying I made this much in this year or I make this much, I look at it from the perspective that maybe there's another Jatin on the other side who is getting started. And I want him to know that if you just believe in yourself and keep doing it, this is the level you can reach. So I look at it from the positive perspective. Yes, sometimes I'm thinking about like, black evil eye or something like that might happen, and people will be like, then I might go back down track. And I think that's what in our culture, people think evil eye is a big thing. And I believe in that a bit as well. And that's why sometimes I'm really skeptical about sharing something I want to achieve, like me coming to this podcast. I can share it with my friends, but if I share on like everything like that, like I'm just giving this podcast as an example. I'm making videos about it. Before even coming, I might get hit by a train or something like that.
Yeah.
That's why I'm skeptical in that sense. But other than that, I'm fine with kind of just speaking about money itself.
Well, the last one there's happened to me before where I've had some people who are like very famous who are going to come on the podcast. Then like they've cancelled or something like that. And I've like said on my stories, really, I'm going to come out and they're going to come on the podcast. And it's just really awkward because it never actually comes out. I had a like completely unrelated, but do you know the show Come Down With Me?
Come Down With Me.
It's like on BBC or something like that. So I was going to be guest starring on that.
Oh, wow.
Or like doing some entertainment thing. And then like we didn't know about it, but they cut us out of the final episode. I told like way too many people that I was going to be on that show. Then they watched it and then like it went to the end and I wasn't on it. And it was so embarrassing. It's a good lesson to learn there. Right?
Yeah.
You said like, don't count your tickets before the hatch, right? Like wait till it's like done and it's dusted. And like it was a good way for me to learn that because it's so embarrassing when people are like, oh, but like I thought you were going to be on it. It's like, yeah, so did I. But you mentioned there about your team as well, right? And obviously being so young and like managing a team, how have you found that process? Because it's quite difficult for many people to let go, right?
I'm sure you probably have managed some people in some sort of way, but managing people is something I think so tough than most people think. People think business owners have the easiest life once they start hiring people. I think life becomes difficult once you hire people because you have to look at, KPIs, work, get productivity, making sure this is done, making sure that's done. Now, you're not managing yourself, but you have to also manage the entire team. And if there's no system in place, it's so difficult to kind of be micromanaging each and every person. And sometimes even being transparent with them, it's difficult as well. Because like, you want to say this, but it might sound really rude. And from inside you want to say, but being so young, I don't have that much experience in kind of being strict or being like a boss. So it was a really difficult experience for me. But I think because I've done it for now, I think over a year, almost over a year, it's become better. But still every day I'm trying to get better in that.
What have you learned so far? Like, what's some of the lessons you've like, did it wrong at the start and now you're doing better, you think?
One major thing was creating a system. Without a system, you're technically just telling the team, do whatever you want. But if you have a system in place, they know exactly what they're doing every day when they come. And in the start, I used to think, they should know what to do. They will come and do and go. But no. As a leader, you have to know what you want them to do and give them a set task. Then you can give them something else in the bit. But every day when they come in, they should know, okay, I'm doing this today. And by the end of the day, I need to get this done. And I think I've just been able to get to this place just within the last month. So imagine my first person I hired was like last year. And just now I've been able to kind of create a system which is finally working a bit better than before. I had no work policies, like even they can come at any time, leave at any time, and this and that. So now I realize that is not the way I can expand the business or take my content creation kind of game even further. And so getting better there, I'm getting better, but still a lot more work to do.
I remember like in the early days as well, I used to get annoyed at people when they weren't doing things the way I wanted. But at the same time, I realized I haven't actually told them or given them the systems to be able to do that.
Yeah.
And you get frustrated. It's quite easy to get really frustrated at people. But then you start to look back, it's like, actually, this is kind of my fault because I didn't tell them how I wanted it done. And the systems aspect is so important because you maybe have the same thing as me, right? If you have, I think we do, where we like to just attack new things. Like, this is interesting, let me go and do it. But you can't, it's difficult. If you have that in an employee, it's difficult, right? Because they've got stability, they want to know what they're going to do. And you can't just go and research this and like find out the best stuff. Because they don't have the same drive and it's not as connected to them as it is to us.
I feel like what you described there is me. That new thing. In Matrix, that red dress woman. Let's go grab her, let's go grab her, let's go grab her. And then I realized, I want to do that. I'm so driven. But my team will be tired and be like, what kind of person is this guy? Like, we are settling with one thing and he's bringing another thing. And before we haven't even settled on that thing, he's already bought another thing. So I realized that in this world, there are many red dress women. You just need to pick one and focus on that. And first create that itself and then try and focus on other thing. And by doing this, I've been able to create a lot of my team is now a lot happier as well. And they're able to know, okay, we're working only in this rather than working on 10 different things. That's something I learned really late. And even just right now when we were talking before the podcast about niching and like how I was speaking to Moti about what type of content do I want to create, this and that. Because I would make, this content gets views, let's make this. But never thought about like, do I want to make that? It was never about that. It was just like, this content gets views. It's like one of those things, this business makes more money, this business makes more money, this content makes money, this content makes money. Let's make all of that content. And then my audience itself would be like, what is this guy doing? What type of content is he making? He went from making this content to this, to that. So there's so much happening. So I've been able to make my team a lot more stable, but now I need to make my content a lot more stable and the content I want to produce. So I'm kind of now in that place.
So you mentioned Moti there. So that episode, I think, came out sometime in November for us. It's Mohammed Tahir. So he's the airport guy. So if you guys want to check that out, like, he's a lovely guy. Like, I love him. Yeah. And then you mentioned there about you focusing on your content next year. What do you think your content is going to focus on? What really drives you now? What are you interested in?
My content went and focused a lot on personal finance, but that wasn't really what I wanted to push. The whole goal was how to become a better person, how to be financially free. That aspect of personal finance is what I want to create, but more on how to become a better person, how to get a better mindset, how to become more confident, basically personal growth related stuff. When I was in year 9, year 10, I didn't have the confidence. Now I'm going back to teach my younger self, because I feel like if I teach my younger self, there might be other same people in the same age who might be struggling with the same problem. And if I can pick one problem and just try and solve that problem in this world, maybe with the power of social media, it will multiply and it will reach to other 100 or 100,000 people who have the same problem. So it's going to be more based in personal growth, personal development. But there's always going to be some aspect of personal finance, because I feel like I still want to teach people about, look, the job isn't the only thing. Being an entrepreneur is a lot better. Yes, there's a lot more stress, a lot more responsibilities, but it gives you a lot of freedom in the end. So that's kind of the path.
I think it's interesting too, because if you look at your path, you look at, say, someone like Ali Abdaal, right? The people who get to a very big scale, you've got to focus on one niche in particular first and then go into everything. And I think a mistake a lot of creators make is they try to go into, when I say everything, I mean more like general life, right? If you've just started as a creator and you're trying to do general life advice, people don't necessarily, like, who are you? Why are they going to listen to you, right? And I talked about it before, where if you've got 1 million followers, you can say the exact same thing as somebody with 0 followers. People are going to pay more attention to you. Yeah. Even if it's completely unrelated to why you've got your followers. And it's why I look at following count as, like, for me, that's the idea behind it, is that you can say the same message, but your message carries more meaning when you've got more followers. Just because of the way like the human mind works. Okay,
human psychology.
If 1 million people follow him, he must be saying something that's valuable. And where it comes in for us, and we're into there, is about what responsibility you have of that. And you can say, okay, I've got 1 million followers now. Now I can shill this Ponzi scheme, right? Because everyone's going to believe in me. Or you can say, actually, what I really want to do is use my platform in a certain way. And I think it's a struggle that many people in the content creation space have. It's like, okay, especially for you, for example, like, you made like great money already. You could just say, okay, how do I get to 10 million, 20 million, 30 million, 50 million, 100 million? Or can be like, well, I've done well. And now from here, I can use the platform in a way that I can really share the message I want.
Exactly.
And what is, like, one of those messages, right? You've got this platform right now. What's something that you think you would tell 15-year-old you or a 15-year-old listening about what they can think about life differently?
I think it's a really great question, by the way. After growing this platform, I've realized that money will come, but it will never bring fulfillment. So now the whole goal is to be more fulfilled. When I create content, think less about the numbers in terms of likes and followers and subscribers, but more about what message am I sending there? Is it the message which I want to send to my younger self? And the message is just believe in yourself. Money will come. As long as you keep working on yourself, there is always light at the end of the tunnel. Keep building that mindset there and build that. Over time, you will achieve everything you want to achieve as long as you keep going in the right direction. And that's kind of, it's a really not too niche message. It's all about, like, just that mindset and kind of learning. Always be willing to learn. Don't say I know everything. The power of learning is something else.
Another balance for you at the moment must be you're creating a lot of content, but like you said, trying to work on yourself as well. And how do you get that balance of consumption versus production content, right? It's so tough.
Yes. Funny thing was, when I started creating content, I was consuming a lot of things as well, which allowed me to create great content and the content I wanted to produce. After I hit 1 million, I stopped consuming. I was like, I know, I have 1 million. Why do I need to consume? I built that ego. Stopped consuming fully. Like a TikTok comes, I'll just scroll away. Why do I need to listen? Even a great mind is telling something and I would be like, I don't need to listen. Just since July this year, I picked up my first book again, Think Like a Monk. And then now I've done Fair Advantage and then Make Time and then Deep Work. And I've been now consuming a lot more books. In the morning, my ritual is wake up, meditate, journal, read, and then start my day. Before that, before I consume anything good, positive for my mind, I do not start the day. And that's allowed me to be a lot more creative, because as a creator, creativity only comes if you're actually consuming something. Allowed me to be more creative and allowed me to think better as well. Because prior to that, when you don't have anyone around you who can think with the same kind of wavelength and understand you, it's really difficult. And books can sometimes get to the same level as you're thinking as well. And that really helped me.
And you also started a podcast recently as well.
Yes.
And it's part of the motivation to do that as well, because I find most of what I learn now is from these kind of conversations.
Yep.
I find it quite hard actually to make the time to read books now. And part of the problem is I've read so many books. To me, is I start skipping ahead, like, okay, I've heard this idea already, whatever. But when you're hearing people's stories like yours, that's where I think I learn the most.
Yeah.
And how have you found that process?
I forgot to mention that, but the reason why I started the podcast, one of the reasons was reading is great, but I am not a person who can read 4 books in a month. It takes me like one book takes me all the way from the start of the month, sometimes 2 months, sometimes it can take me 2.5 months because I have dyslexia. So when I'm reading certain words, I would read some random words and stuff like that. So I read so slow, but at the same time, I want to consume by either listening a podcast or podcasting someone. So the podcast has allowed me to interview people who I want to learn from. And if they're doing something success in life, I'm like, okay, maybe there's something to learn from. So doing 10 episodes already has helped me so much. And now whenever I go to talk to people, I can literally pick up things and be like, oh, I learned something there as well. That was crazy as well. And just meeting new people, going often to Creators Meetup, coming here, just learning from you as well. Like me being on this podcast, I take it as a learning opportunity from you as well.
And there was one of the guests that came on, Rish Chowdhury, right? And he's got dyslexia as well. And he said it's his superpower. That's the reason why he's successful, because he couldn't do things the same way other people could. Have you felt like dyslexia has helped you a lot?
So it's been crazy, but Richard Branson has dyslexia. So many famous people have dyslexia. And I'm not saying, oh, if you have dyslexia, you're going to be successful or anything like that. But being dyslexic allows you to kind of do things different, as you mentioned. Instead of reading a book, you will look for other ways to consume. Like me doing a podcast. I know reading a book is, hard, but I can just listen to this person every time. And even in other stuff, I will try and look for different ways. Like a job, I look for a different path, which was entrepreneurship. I wanted to become an entrepreneur. Even in other stuff, like, I don't know, random life decisions, I would think of different ways I can do this rather than doing the same way as what everyone's doing. Because if everyone's doing the same thing with the same method, I'm sure there's definitely other ways you can do which will give you better results. So that's the power of dyslexia.
Did it ever affect your confidence growing up?
When I was in classrooms, yes, because sometimes if a teacher's about to pick on me, this is me reading. I have been doing this. So it's like I'm so slow, whereas people are like, I've been doing this for the past year. And I'm like, they're so much better. And then me, I'm literally, my eyes will be wide open. But when I'm reading that word, instead of now, I will read wow. So it's so weird, but it's always been like, if the teacher picks on me. But as I've grown up, I've embraced it more. I'm dyslexic and it's something part of me. And I'm trying to consume stuff with a different method and it's working as well. And I think in a way, it's your power. Every weakness is your power as well.
And what's so great now is that a lot of people are coming out and being very open about this dyslexia.
Yeah.
And it does change the way people think about it, right? Because I remember when I was growing up, I grew up in a place where people weren't very necessarily nice to each other, right?
Yeah.
So somebody was slow at speaking in school, people would make fun of them.
Yeah.
Because we didn't know enough at that point, right? And now that's changing because you keep seeing different people with dyslexia doing well.
Yeah.
So it's now, in some way, like if somebody's listening right now who's like younger and has got dyslexia and they're worried about it and they're getting picked on and stuff like that, it's showing like, no, look, actually, that doesn't mean that I can't be successful. It doesn't mean that I can't do what I want to do. I can forge my own path.
Yes.
And I think it's so important for people to get that message across.
I really agree with that because one of the things like me telling my younger self is that you might not know how to speak English properly. Your grammar might be bad. Your spellings are not even perfect. You might be dyslexic. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Keep believing in yourself. There's always different ways in this world to learn, to consume, and use as a power, as I mentioned. Kind of, I'll refer back to the unfair advantage. One thing it really taught me, the book, was perspective. Your weakness or you being poor is also an unfair advantage. You being rich is also an unfair advantage. But it's also a double-edged sword. Being poor means you don't have a lot of money, but you have a lot of drive, a lot of hunger. Being rich, you have a lot of money, but you don't have the drive. You may not have the drive. You may not have the hunger. So it's kind of one of those things.
So I really enjoyed chatting to you today. We're going to go for the quick fire questions now.
Sure.
So the first one is, who are 3 British stations that you think people should be listening to and following?
So I didn't have a lot of British Asian people in this kind of community because recently we have started to build this mini community of British Asians making videos. So it's really tough. But I think I would say one of them is Ali Abdo. Ali Abdo makes videos on productivity, life, and I see him more as a person who I can learn from because he's at the age where he can relate to a person like me, 21, 22, 23 years old, and the struggles he's going through about managing a business, about just in life in general, the kind of the thoughts about, do I really want to achieve? Do I really want to do this for the rest of my life? And what do I want to achieve in life? So you kind of get a lot of information about not just building a business, but also life-related content. And Moti, he's the airport guy, but he's also one of the best motivational guys I've seen because the way he brings the message to you and allows you to understand yourself. And he's so self-aware about himself that it just makes it so much easier to understand stuff. And so anytime you need self-development content, I think Moti is the guy. And the last one is one of my friends, the Anxious Investor. He is a property investor. He makes videos about property and kind of in general life and related stuff. Really nice guy. I had him on my podcast, and he's got a lot of knowledge, a lot of practical knowledge, even though he's 33 years old. And the information I'm able to kind of learn from him, I look at him as my brother, kind of Aaron. His name is Aaron, yes.
Awesome. And then what can people listening right now, if they want to get in touch with you, they're looking for help, what can you help them with?
I think just the general Amazon-related stuff, but you can also reach out to me for anything you're going through life, which I may be able to, such as confidence. How can I build more confidence? How can I become an entrepreneur? Now, being an entrepreneur doesn't mean just money-wise, but even taking a different route to not going to university, not doing a job. I think those are the stuff I can help with because I've been through that. I can't help you with how to grow a multi-million business because I haven't done that yet. So if you reach out to me on that level, then I can't, unfortunately.
And then on the flip side, what do you need help with? What's something that people could help you with right now?
It's a tough one. I would say that watching my content and sharing my content, listen to my content fully, listen to my long form of content. I think you will understand me there better. Maybe build that connection. Maybe when you see me in person, just say hi. And I think that way I know that it's not just me talking to a screen, but at the end of on the other side of the screen, I'm affecting someone and they're getting some value from me. So I think that.
Yeah, it's the same thing I think with anybody is that it's sometimes weird people aren't sure whether to say hello or not, but I think a lot of people actually do like it because it humanizes, right? If somebody listens to your content of like you've affected them, it's nice to hear that, right? Yeah. And it's like you said, you can look at the numbers, but if you only look at the numbers, it hides the actual human effect. And I think that's what most of us actually care about.
Yes. Whenever I had this feeling of like, having 1 million followers doesn't feel as good as being with 100 real people in a room. It's a different feeling. When I'm talking to 100 people, even 5-10 people in a room, that feeling is much higher than seeing just 1 million followers. So that itself, the power of having a real person waving at me or coming to like an event, if I'm holding small event of meetup or something like that, it's so much better than just me making a video on my phone.
Yeah. And then, so like I said, like so great to have you on. Have you got any final words for everybody today?
My final words would be just, if you're there trying to figure out life, or just you're already in your journey and you think you're going through so much, just know every one of us are going through the same problems. Talk to someone, but keep going and don't stop, because winners never quit and quitters never win.
Thank you for listening to the Bay HQ podcast today. In our mission to inspire, connect and guide the next generation of British Asian entrepreneurs, it would mean so much to us if you could subscribe to our channel, leave a review and share this with your friends.